All right, Jeff, we are back. It is time for the nightmare story. So,
evicting tenants.
Evicting tenants. So, with all the talk about evictions and lack of ability to evict, we thought it was very fitting to tell a nightmare story on eviction. So, Jeff, why don't you dive into the story, please?
Yoshi and I actually had a property that we were actually looking to flip.
Yes.
But we bought it, and there was a tenant already in the unit.
Yes.
The tenant was the son of the owner.
That's right.
Woman.
Yes.
And he was a crackhead.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
and his mom knew it.
Yes. Hadn't paid his mom rent in over a year.
Yeah. And so she was struggling, and they didn't communicate, and or she didn't want to evict her son and all that. So we picked up the property and needed to start with the eviction to get the crackhead out of the house.
Right.
So we started the eviction, and normally, and here's kind of one tip on evictions, and this is, again, we don't know what the next 4 months are really going to be like with eviction.
So true.
But in standard times, it's either a 30-day or a 15-day notice to evict someone. If they're under a lease agreement, it's probably 30 days. If they're not under a lease or they're on a month-to-month at that point, it's a 15-day. But what you have to remember is that 15 days, that 15th day has to fall within the month that you want to evict.
Oh, right.
So if you provide notice on, let's say, April 10th,
yes,
and you provide the 15-day notice on April 10th, right?
Yep.
15 days later is the 25th.
Yep.
You can start eviction on the 30th of April, the end of that month.
Right.
Okay? You have to wait till the end of the month on which that 15th day falls.
Got it.
If you provide that notice on, let's say, April 20th,
yes,
the 15th day is then the 5th of May.
Yes.
And so you can't start the eviction until the 30th or 31st of May.
Right.
So depending on the timing, be aware of that.
Yes.
And what you're evicting for, because if you're evicting on something else on a lease agreement, you might have to find 30 days. But if it's non-payment of rent or lease to lease or something like that, it may be 15 days. But you have to be aware of that timing.
Okay? Yes.
And if you're going to evict, make sure you get those notices out prior to the 15th of the month. Because then, otherwise, you're going to wait an extra full month
right,
to evict.
Right.
Okay. So when we bought it, we actually closed at the end of a month.
Yes.
And we provided the 15-day notice in the last week of the month. So we had to wait until the end of the next month. So we had to wait about 5 weeks.
Yes.
Before we could even start the eviction, the actual court process to evict.
Right.
So we did that. Did he challenge it at all? I think he
did. Yeah, he did challenge it.
He tried to challenge it. So it ended up taking, normally, most tenants don't even show up at the eviction hearing.
Yep.
And the judge stamps something and it's done in 30 seconds. It's, cookie cutter. They just push people through the line.
Yes.
But tenants may show up.
Yes. And I wasn't there, but I was told he showed up with a contract on a napkin that appeared to be forged of his mother's. He forged his mom's signature on a napkin.
On a napkin, yeah. And I don't think the judge bought it.
I don't think the judge bought it either.
They're pretty smart.
Yeah.
So normally, it takes about 7 to 14 days to kind of get through that court process and to get the actual eviction notice and say, okay, you've been evicted, you got to get out.
Right.
That can take 4 to 6 weeks if tenants really kind of push it and have some kind of justification to stop the eviction.
Yes.
And if you're a tenant, we didn't mention this earlier, most likely, if you're being evicted and you believe you're being wrongfully evicted, your best bet is like a Utah Legal Services or Utah Legal Aid societies to represent you in the eviction. You're probably not going to use a lawyer as a tenant because the amount in controversy is only a few $1,000s.
Yes.
And you're going to pay a few $1,000s to an attorney to represent you.
Right.
So most attorneys just don't take on tenants as clients in eviction.
Got it.
Which is why Utah Legal Aid and societies exist to help tenants.
Got it.
Defend themselves. So if you're a tenant, check out some of those sources. Some of them do have income qualifications. If you make too much money, you can't use them. That kind of thing.
Okay.
But they may have some suggestions, or information to kind of help you with the eviction.
Got it.
But anyways, back to our story.
Yeah.
So we got the court order evicting.
Yep.
And the guy wouldn't.
Yes.
So we had a squatter.
At this point. He refused to leave still.
He lost the court case and refused to leave. So we had to call the cops, the sheriff, and change the locks on the door, lock him out.
Yep.
At which point we were then required to hold on to his property for 15 days, which adds more time.
Exactly.
So we held on to his property. And during that 15 days, and even a little shortly after that, if I remember correctly, of course, he was still sneaking back in and living in the house. His stuff was there. And we locked him out, but he was breaking in.
Yes.
And sleeping there. And then after about the 15 days, we got our dump guys, our trash guys, and he came in and started hauling all of his stuff out.
Into a big dumpster.
So we threw away all of his stuff.
Yep.
And then he kept breaking in. And then after that, he kept breaking in.
Yes.
So we were at least able to get, it took, I think, about 2.5 months.
Yes.
About 2.5 months.
Of trying to get him out.
Before we got his stuff out and we could actually start the project.
It was a long time.
That's a long time.
60 days.
That's about as long as it'll get here in Utah.
Yes.
It's 2.5 months. And we could have done it in 1.5 months if we had provided that 15-day notice earlier in the month. We didn't own the house, so technically we couldn't provide it, but if we had done it on behalf of the previous landlord, the guy's mother, we at least could have got the process started.
Right.
And saved ourselves a month.
Right.
But again, you may find yourself, sometimes you just have to evict when you have to evict.
Yeah, right? It's true.
So you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks, kind of on the good side, 2 to 3 months on the long side. And of course, when we start doing evictions again in a couple of months, and the health crisis is over, probably you're looking at possibly
exactly
because of the backlog.
Yep. And for those who don't know, so when you do evict somebody, and the judge allows you now to have the constable or the sheriff come and remove them from the home, they call it a lockout. And so when you do this lockout, the law requires you to hold on to the belongings, the property of the person there, their bed, their furniture, everything that's in there, all their belongings for 14 to 15 days, right? It's 15, is it 14 or 15?
I don't remember.
I think it's 14 and I think the eviction attorney said it's 14, but if you wait 15, then you're definitely past
clear,
it. Yeah. So we waited 15 days.
It could come in of how you count the days and what the first day is like.
Exactly. And to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but the belongings, all his belongings in the home, we could have removed, put them in a self-storage, but now we're paying for self-storage.
So we've had to pay movers to move the belongings, pay for the storage to hold them for those couple of weeks. And then, of course, I don't want to hold them on forever, so they pay the movers again to move them to the dump.
Exactly.
So it just made more sense to leave them in the house for 15 days.
Absolutely.
Wait on the project.
Yes, absolutely. So in our case, it made sense to just leave them there for 15 days. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling like, hey, I need to get this individual out, the judge has ordered the lockout, you now can take the belongings somewhere that you have to store in a safe place, because they can hold you liable if anybody goes missing. So let's say you get a self-storage, but of course you're adding an expense to it. But maybe for some people that is the best move, to empty out the house. For whatever reason.
You just got to determine what your costs are on moving, holding, storage, and what else you're doing with the property.
Yes. And to add to the story, Jeff, you weren't there when the constable did the lockout. I had to show up, and I don't think I'd ever changed a doorknob before. Like, I mean, I flip houses, but my contractors do that, right?
I've changed about 1,000 doorknobs. They're the worst.
They are so hard.
They're actually really difficult to do.
It was, and it's like I've changed interior doorknobs, right? Like hallway doors to bedrooms. Those aren't as difficult, but it was summer. I was sweating. This house had no AC because we ended up putting AC. I'm trying to change this doorknob as fast as I can. And, the constable, the sheriff, is just standing at the front door making sure nobody comes and sneaks up on me. I just remember going, this thing is not fitting. It's not working. I mean, taking it off was easy. Two screws and then the thing comes out. But putting it back in, it wouldn't close. So I got it in there, but then it just didn't line up and it wouldn't close. It wouldn't lock. And took forever for me. So that my nightmare added on.
I know. Yeah, I don't do those things anymore.
Yes.
The 5-minute projects you think are super easy.
Yes.
It will take you a half an hour and you'll be custom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Pay someone to do it.
Pay someone to do it. So since then, on all my lockouts that I've ever had to participate in, I bring a handyman with me who knows how to do that really well and fast.